Most people think they know George Clooney's life. The red carpets, the awards, the effortless charm. But behind all of that fame, there was a loss so personal, so quietly devastating, that many fans didn't even know it happened. George Clooney's older sister, Adelia Zeidler, has passed away at the age of 65. And while headlines briefly mentioned her name, the story behind who she really was, and why her death hit George so deeply, has largely stayed out of view. Because Ada wasn't just his sister. She was his anchor. And almost no one saw her coming. But her story deserves to be told. And it starts far away from Hollywood. Ada Zeidler lived a life that couldn't have been more different from her famous brothers. While George became one of the most recognizable faces on the planet, Ada chose something quieter. And very intentional. She worked as a teacher. She created art. She stayed rooted in her community. Friends described her as sharp-witted, fiercely independent, and deeply compassionate. She had no interest in fame, no desire for cameras, and no patience for celebrity culture. In fact, it's been said she actively avoided the spotlight, even as her last name became globally famous. That wasn't by accident. Ada wanted her life to be defined by impact, not attention. And long before George Clooney became George Clooney, Ada was already playing a powerful role behind the scenes. Growing up in the Clooney household, Ada was the older sibling. Outspoken, confident, and protective. Those close to the family have said she had a strong presence and wasn't afraid to challenge anyone, including her younger brother. George has often spoken about how grounded his upbringing was, despite later fame. And insiders have pointed to Ada as a big part of that grounding force. She kept him honest. She kept him human. Even as George's career exploded, Ada stayed the same. She didn't move to Hollywood. She didn't give interviews. She didn't trade privacy for proximity to fame. And that distance became even more important when her life took a turn she never asked for. Behind closed doors, Ada had been fighting a serious illness for years. The family never made it public. No press tours. No emotional headlines. Just quiet strength. Reports confirm she had been battling cancer. A struggle she faced with resilience and dignity, choosing to keep the details private. While fans speculated about George's frequent travel and occasional disappearances from the spotlight, few realized where he was really going. He was going home. He was showing up. He was being a brother first and a celebrity second. Those close to the family say Ada's illness only reinforced how tight-knit the Clooneys were. She continued working when she could. She continued creating. And she continued being exactly who she had always been, strong, private, and determined not to be defined by her condition. But eventually the fight came to an end. When news of Ada's passing surfaced, it wasn't accompanied by spectacle. It came quietly. And then George spoke. In a rare and deeply emotional statement, George Clooney referred to his sister as his hero. That single word said everything. He praised her courage, her humor, her strength. And for someone known for keeping emotions carefully measured in public, the weight behind his words was unmistakable. This wasn't a polished celebrity tribute. This was grief. Fans immediately noticed how different this moment felt. George Clooney has faced public scrutiny, career highs and lows, and even political controversy over the years. But this was something else entirely. This was personal. And people felt it. Social media quickly filled with messages from fans who were stunned to learn Ada even existed. Many expressed admiration for how fiercely private she had remained, even while standing so close to global fame. Others shared their own stories of losing siblings, of watching loved ones fight long illnesses away from the public eye. Ada's story resonated not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. And that's what made it powerful. What often gets overlooked is the legacy Ada left behind. One that had nothing to do with Hollywood. Former students remembered her as passionate and patient. Friends described her as creative and generous. Her art, her teaching, and her presence left lasting impressions that never needed headlines. In many ways, Ada represented a quiet rebellion against celebrity culture. She proved that proximity to fame doesn't require participation in it. And in losing her, George Clooney didn't just lose a sibling. He lost someone who knew him before the world did. Someone who never treated him like a star. Someone who reminded him who he was when the cameras were off. This loss has subtly reframed how fans see George Clooney. Not as a movie icon or political voice, but as a brother navigating the same kind of grief millions of people experience every day. No amount of success shields anyone from that. Ada Zeidler lived a life of purpose, privacy, and quiet strength. And while she never sought attention, her story has touched far more people than she probably ever imagined. Sometimes the most meaningful lives aren't the loudest ones. They're the ones lived with intention, away from the spotlight. And this is one of them. If stories like this matter to you, the human side behind celebrity headlines, make sure to subscribe for more real stories you won't hear anywhere else. Because fame fades, but family never does.